Hello, this is Tony Smith, coach for the Mike Ferry organization, speaker for Mike, and an active agent here in Apple Valley, California. Today I want to talk a little bit about a very exciting topic, closing skills. Your ability to get that signature or get that appointment when you need to get one. Closing is an interesting thing because so many people put so much weight on it from kind of the wrong direction. You know, the old mantra, ABC, always be closing. Well, the truth is there's a little different approach to that we want to look at. So I've written down 4 or 5 points that I want to have you address when it comes to be a better closer in your real estate business. Number 1, your belief in yourself and what you have to offer is critical to closing. You have to understand that if you don't have a strong belief in yourself and what you have to offer, closing is a real problem. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but Mike Ferry literally has no problem asking you to sign a contract, buy a product, hire a coach, because he knows without question that your life and business financially will get better by doing it. And he also knows that your life and business may suffer if you don't. So his approach to closing is because he has this belief in himself. So I wrote down 2 little points into this. A, if you want to have a stronger belief in yourself, you need to decide, what are the 4 or 5 things about you, reasons why you separate yourself from all the competitors? Listen, there's hundreds and hundreds of agents in practically every market in America. You have competitors. If you can't stop long enough to understand what are the 4 or 5 reasons why someone should hire you over all the rest, right? You're just simply a needle in a stack of needles. It's really hard to distinguish that. So you need to sit down, and I don't know if it's that you're a better communicator. I don't know if it's you're a good negotiator. I don't know if it's your track record. I don't know if it's that you have good negotiating skills, if you follow a tight schedule. I don't know if your company has a great track record. If you can't figure out why you over someone else, how strong of a closer could you ever possibly be? And then B, if you want to have a high belief in yourself and what you have to offer, you need to truly understand what it is you do to sell a home and what it is you do to help a buyer buy a home. If you can't understand that and be able to deliver that to someone, then you simply don't have the confidence that if someone chooses another agent, they're going to get hurt. If they choose you, they get the best and the service they deserve. So you've got to lock down those 2 things if you ever want to be a great closer from a belief standpoint. Number 2, your presentation makes closing either very easy or very hard. Your presentation makes closing either very easy or very hard. And Mike said it for years that our presentation, the quality of it, makes closing easy. Right? And so you have to understand, if you don't have high energy and enthusiasm, do you know how hard you have to close on someone just by lack of energy and enthusiasm? Okay? If you don't use a lot of tonality in your voice, if you don't use head nods, gestures, right? A big smile on your face, if you don't use a lot of hand gestures when you're doing this job, okay? If your body language, if you don't have good solid posture, if your body language is weak, if you don't make great eye contact, if you don't have a clear voice, an incredible attire, manicured hands, right? Great quality materials that you deliver at the presentation, right? All of those things in your presentation are critical in your ability to close, because it's not the words. Closing is not about having some real dynamic, crafty set of words you use to get someone to say yes. It's about what they see and what they feel and what they hear and the whole package. So if you walk into a house and you look nervous and you're sloppily dressed and your handshake is weak and you can't make eye contact and you don't have a big smile on your face and you don't nod and use body language and tonality, if you can't smile naturally in public, if you have all of these things going against you, the close is incredibly hard. Do you know how crafty you have to be in the absence of a good physical presence when you present? You've got to understand that it's visual and physical. Number 3, I wrote down, following the scripts makes closing so much easier, right? Like it's one of those things, you've heard it time and time and time again, that the closing is the natural ending to a good presentation. Well, it's so true. You know, so often we hear agents that are struggling with getting appointments, and we, as coaches, we get the audio recording. So we ask them to send a recording. Send me a recording of a listing presentation. Send me a recording of your prospecting. And what many agents, we hear them doing is we hear them trying to skip over the process. Like they're closing for an appointment on the phone, but they're skipping over the script. They want to just go from A to Z, right? Hi, my name is Bob. Do you want to meet? Right? And that whole process is, what's causing them not to close like they could. If you would understand the psychology of what we do in the scripts, the psychology of when do you plan on moving? How long have you lived at this address? Where did you move from? How did you happen to pick this area? If you were to move, where we go next? The psychology of that is what leads to a close. And your delivery of each and every one of those questions, your ability to repeat and approve their answer, each time you're able to do that, you're moving one step closer to being able to close for the appointment. The listing presentation. My gosh, the psychology of the listing presentation. I wrote down 3 real important questions for you. We basically want to, if they want it fast, we give it to them fast. If they don't accept that, we take away. I may decide not to take your listing. We kind of pull it back a little bit. Then we confront them a little bit. When I talked to you on the phone, you said you were moving too. You said you had to be there by blank. Then we show them your worldly knowledge about value. Do you understand how value works? Right? And if you look at the whole process psychology-wise of the scripts we use, if you're leaving out big components of that, then you're leaving out the presentation that's the natural ending to the close. So you have to ask yourself, am I skipping over big parts of all these scripts and then trying to close really hard and frustrated because I'm not getting the signature? You have to accept the whole process. It's a natural ending. It's a pathway to the close. I wrote down number 4. Prospecting enough makes closing easier. Okay, so here we go again, Tony talking about prospecting. But the truth is, if we're not prospecting enough, and this is one of the things we see a lot and hear a lot in the real estate industry with people that are frustrated about their closing ability. Right? And they're really frustrated about it. I'm not getting able to close. I'm not closing. I'm not getting signatures. I'm not getting appointments. Well, you have to ask yourself, first of all, am I looking hard enough? If you're not looking hard enough, well, let's put it this way. How hard is it to close on a non-motivated person? So if somebody is absolutely 100% not motivated, they have really low interest in selling. How much closing do you need? Right? If they're not motivated, you got to close them 1,000,000 times and they're still not going to ask you to, let you come over or sign the contract. The motivation, right? And so if you're not looking hard enough, not prospecting enough, not generating enough, is it possible that you're simply trying to close on a lack of motivated people? Right? When you start generating enough, you encounter the motivated ones, closing's a lot easier, right? And you have to also understand, we mentioned earlier, the power of your presentation and how important that is. If you're not generating on a regular basis and you don't have a good supply of leads at all times, how weak does that make your presentation? Your presentation gets weakened dramatically if you don't have a lot of leads, right? If this is the only lead you have right now, aren't you a little more anxious and a little more nervous? You don't want to scare them off. So you can't be direct and forward. You won't use the script, right? We won't actually ask them for an appointment. We tend to hint around at it. We don't want to scare them off. And at the listing presentation, if you don't have a lot of leads and you know you're not generating like you're supposed to be generating, when you're sitting in front of that seller, so much of what you know to do goes right out the window out of fear. So if I don't get this listing, I don't have any more chances. Then we won't close. We won't look them in the eye. Our body language weakens, right? It gets a lot more dramatic and emotional. We can't handle the objections. We can't be totally honest with them and forthcoming about what they're trying to accomplish. And it's simply by we're in a weak presentation state because we're not generating enough on the back end. So you have to ask yourself this question. Do I have a closing problem or a generation problem? If you generate at the right level, closing, believe me, gets so much easier. Okay. I wrote down number 5. You have to learn to have thicker skin, be a little tougher. Okay. And there's a couple ways to be tougher. A, you've got to learn to ask directly. Like, go ahead, sign the contract. Let's meet. I have Tuesday at 2, or would 4 o'clock be better for you? We have to learn, first of all, to be very direct. In real estate, it's a pretty common knowledge in the public anyway that real estate agents are kind of like politicians. They're not direct. They kind of are always trying to go around the back door or have some little crafty, underhanded or undertoned approach. And the truth is, the public is so happy when you're direct. It's refreshing to them. So we have to learn to answer their questions directly. Be absolutely forthright and truthful with the answers. We have to learn to ask them directly. Sign the contract, please. And I want you to really measure yourself. Do you say sign the contract, or do you say, well, what do you think? Should we maybe get started? Directness is so important to thick skin. B, you have to consider several approaches to the whole process. Okay? When you're on a listing presentation, if you don't have several kind of approaches you could take to getting the signature, then it just kind of runs out. And if you run out of approaches, then it's like, okay, bye, right? And so you think about approaches. One approach, hey, there's 3 decisions you have to make tonight. A, you have to decide, are you definitely going to sell this home? You are? Good. B, you have to decide what price will cause it to sell and what price won't. Have I clearly shown you the maximum money you can get for your property? Excellent. And C, you have to decide which agent can get the job done for you. Do you feel I can sell your home? That is fairly direct, but man, it kind of eliminates the options, right? You can use the motivation again. Hey, listen, when we spoke before, you said it was really important that you got to move so you could watch the grandkids grow up. May I ask you a question? Are you willing to go ahead and stay here and not get this home listed and sold and continue having your grandkids grow up without you? You don't want that, do you? Listen, we can solve the problem right now. For me to get you one step closer to watching those grandbabies grow up, we just need to sign the contract. Go ahead. We can go back and revert to their motivation. We can do things like this. Hey, listen, the easiest thing for me to do would be to act like all the other agents in town and just simply say goodbye. Can I ask you a question? How important in your list of criteria that you're looking for an agent is really aggressiveness? How important is that to you? Oh, it's pretty high. Okay, well, if aggressiveness is pretty high, would it make a lot of sense for me to just walk out and not be aggressive right now? Of course it wouldn't. So let's just go ahead and get started. Let's sign the contract so I can help you get what you want in the time you want. Wouldn't that be great? So if you don't have multiple approaches to it, then you can't toughen up, which is really important to do if you want to become a good closer, is learn how to toughen up a bit. Okay. Also, you have to just flat understand that most people have the knee-jerk no. We all know what the knee-jerk no is, right? Here's the analogy. You walk into a department store and you walk in to go buy a new outfit. You walk right into the store and a great, well-dressed salesperson comes up and says, "May I help you?" And you say, "No, thanks." And then you walk directly over to the rack and you buy the new outfit. That no thanks was a knee-jerk no. That was your gut reaction. Say no to salespeople. Say no. I'm supposed to say no. And so if we don't have a really thorough understanding in our work about the knee-jerk no, when people are going to just naturally say no and it's kind of unconscious. When do you plan on moving? Never, right? If we can't get past that and understand that that's an unconscious, just kind of a natural thing that people do, we're going to get stuck early on in the process. Right? We got to talk to other agents. No. We're not going to sign that tonight. We have to talk to other agents. That is a knee-jerk no. You have to learn to move past that if you ever want to be a good closer. So closing is really not a complex thing. It's not a real complicated thing. It's understanding that it's mostly in how you look and act and behave and how you believe in yourself and if you follow the Mike Ferry scripts or not. If you can do those things, you're halfway home to becoming an incredible closer. So do me a favor, get out there and generate enough leads, use our scripts, upgrade everything in your presentation, and closing will be a lot easier. Thanks a lot for your time today.